Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's Cuptalk podcast, and it is your host Faridah Namatovu, and it is Connect TV as usual. Today we are going to discuss in details, but before we go in details, this is the program that talks about the youth, that talks about issues affecting the young people and which ideas that can be shared to see that these issues are capped and tomorrow they find solutions in a lifetime. So today we are going to talk about a topic which is very exciting, and all of you are going to be in position to learn so much about it in regards to the guests that we've hosted today. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me introduce to you the very formidable guest today that is going to tell us about himself and share with us in regards to what we're going to discuss today. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Farida, for hosting this very wonderful show. My name is Quraish Jumba. I work with Youth Mentoring Uganda as the Strategic Management and Planning Officer. I support program implementation as well as program design at the organization. I'm very happy to be here to share with the young people the message that they need most during these times.
Strategy and planning. That sounds like a milestone. I would say that sounds so big. When I look at you physically, I feel like that's a very huge position. So how would you manage? How would you manage that?
Well, thank you so much. Again, Youth Mentoring Uganda focuses on programs for the young people.
Wow.
And therefore, this requires strategic direction, strategic planning to make sure that for whatever we are planning for the young people is the exact program that they need. We make sure we are addressing the challenges that the young people are facing outside there in the community. So this requires somebody who can be able to really guide and think through with the team at the organization, and I am very happy to be serving in that role.
Wow. I would say I'm really captivated, and I look forward to learning a lot and so much from you. You've talked about strategy and planning. We've had people that maybe those that are watching us today are looking at how can I be someone that Mr. Quraish is right now. But again, when I look at strategy and planning, I look at me achieving that dream. But inside me, there's what we consider as fear and anxiety. This is one serious situation or one serious lifetime moment whereby people look up to achieving quite a lot in life, but then there's that tendency of fear, there's that tendency of anxiety, just because we could look at it in an angle of physical emotions, or maybe anything that can create or curb causes that will drive someone to be in fear or be anxious about something. So in relation to that, let us get to know what could you be understanding by maybe fear and anxiety in relation to that particular way.
Well, fear and anxiety are complementary. You may not be able to separate fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
That is something that you can't, because when you look at what anxiety means, basically is the fear that happens around someone because of the uncertainty of what is to come in the near future, in the possible future, be it today, in the next 1 hour or 2 hours, or tomorrow, or the next week, or the next month. The mere fact that of a young person thinking about what is yet to come in the future, that can cause anxiety. And only question that is running around their minds is, how am I going to be able to make it cognizant of the fact that there are very many challenges and limitations that are around the young people, which include limited knowledge, limited spaces available for the young people, or even the different dynamics that come around for the different sexes, be it for the males, be it for the females. So that environment causes the anxiety, basically the fear of what would come in the near future based on what they want. Because the only way you're going to become anxious, or the only way you're going to feel unsettled, the only way you're going to feel uncertain about what is coming in the future is the mere fact that you fear what is coming. So that complementary action of anxiety and fear is what somebody can call the uncertainty of what is going to happen tomorrow. So So that can be, in a layman's language, can be called anxiety.
Well, now I get to understand. You mentioned it so well that it can be long term, and people are anxious because of something, and they're tensed. There's a situation whereby you feel someone is out of fear, and this anxiety goes an extra mile. You either panic, you get panic attacks, you get shivering, you get triggers, and this is something that it takes quite some time for you to recover from that. So if it so happens and someone has those causes that are driving that force, how best can they approach them such that at one moment you need to calm down? We need to know real life experiences, real life solutions. How can someone overcome the fear or anxiety?
Well, different people have different attributes. In the local context or in our day-to-day lives, we have certain approaches that we take. You will find one, when they have fear, probably they count from 100 up to 1. They count from 50 up to 1.
Isn't that like a very long time for you to count?
I don't think it is a very long time for you to count. Some people are going to tell you find counterparts like me who are a bit religious. They will tell you, I'll just pray a prayer and probably I find myself coming down. So for every young person out there, you must be able to find that unique thing that gets you to calm down, because anxiety and fear are part of our lives. Sure. At a certain time, you're going to want something so bad that you're very uncertain about it happening. You're going to have anxiety around yourself, and before you know it, you're going to shiver. Before you know it, you're going to get nervous. Before you know it, you're going to break down and probably also cry sometimes. I want to tell the young people out there that for everything that causes anxiety, it is okay, it is normal. But how you deal with the anxiety is where you need to really think very, very well and think very fast. Because for you to be able to deal with such a situation, you're required of yourself to be a very, very good decision maker. You need to know yourself as a person. You need to know your boundaries. You need to set limits to your boundaries. Yes, if you're dealing with people, you need to know the people that you deal with. Yes, if you're interacting with your fellow peers, and at some point you really see that your fellow peer is crossing the line, at what point you communicate effectively and be able to pass on this message and say, hey, at least you're going way over the board. Can we maintain this space? Can we have this space? Because we are always with people. We live with people in our day-to-day lives. You can't really live alone. No man is an island. Your ability to deal with people. So I can sum the ability to really deal with anxiety and fear with one thing that Topoa Youth Mentoring Uganda focuses on in its programs, and that is giving people life skills to make sure they can deal with life. A sample or key life skills that you need are decision-making skills, skills of knowing yourself and knowing others. You know, when you're able to make the right decisions, even when you're anxious, even when you're in fear, you're going to have the skill to say, okay, I am anxious, I am in fear, but I can be able to make this decision because that is what is best for me. I think for me, the message for the young people out there is you really have to know what are the life skills that you need. Communication skills. Can you be able to communicate as a peer? Can I be able to understand that my colleague out there is facing a challenge? Probably.
Well, pausing on communications, you know, fear and anxiety. There's a time when you feel like, let me give a real life experience. At one point, I feel like I want to communicate something. Well, I could be questioned at one point, but I feel like I need to communicate something in regards to a response that I would have given. But in so doing, I don't know if it's a tendency of fear in me. You find I'm basically too emotional, and then I can't drive the point home. In regards, I can't even communicate. And at one point, I find myself crying. So one big maybe mode of how I look at controlling anxiety and fear is to lock myself somewhere and cry out loud such that after a certain time I'm okay and I recover. So when it comes to communication, how best do you think, because we all look at people that are above us, but if you look at a way or you're communicating to this particular person because you're trying to drive a point home, but then you can't, there's a tendency, there's fear in you that is pushing you away to do something. What best can we do in regards to that?
Well, in that regard, communication is very important.
Yeah.
Communication is basically information flow. A case in point, you have your superior.
Yeah.
In as much as they may be trying to communicate something, or you have your parent, because the young people, some of us are living with our parents,
Yeah, true.
some of us are living with our sisters, or even we're living with stepmoms or different guardians altogether.
Yeah.
The way you ably communicate with them, having anxiety and you do worse things because of anxiety is not the best for us as young people.
True.
It doesn't give us the best. However, somebody will rate you by the fact that you were in a very tight situation and you were able to communicate properly to yourself first.
Yeah.
Because before you say out anything as a young person, you must be able to say, is it what I can defend after I've said it?
Exactly.
Is it something I can back up after I've said it? So as soon as young people we are able to stand up and make the right decisions, even in communication, we can be able to do better. Because if you're anxious and you can communicate to yourself that, okay, right now I'm not okay, probably I am in fear, or probably I am angry, or probably I am not happy, or I am so happy that I'm going to say something that probably will not be so okay because I am happy. It gets back to the way we communicate even when we are anxious. So you can't give excuses.
Yeah.
After you have done or mentioned something, there's no way we're going to give excuses. In the long run, we are as good as what we portray as the young people. So how can you be able to play around with that? Locking yourself in a room and crying out loud, very, very okay.
Wow.
Very okay. For whatever that can calm you down.
True.
As a young person. And the best you can do is cry, sit in a corner and cry.
Lord.
That is very okay. If at all it really brings you to a state where you're going to calm down, please cry. Cry if you can.
Yeah.
Lock yourself in a room. Shout. Shout if you can.
Reminded me, I happen to have a friend who, instead of crying, they just put music loud to the highest volume. And then they're in a bathroom, surprisingly, and someone becomes a Nicki Minaj in the bathroom, and when they come out, they're very normal. And I look at that one very excited because it's now music that is becoming a therapy. Well, in relation to that, could you, Mr. Quraish, tell us a real story, real life experience of you overcoming maybe a certain fear and anxiety?
Okay. Probably I'll share this real life experience.
Thank you.
At the apex of my personal growth, society, or even myself, at some point I had to find someone I can stay with.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm happily married with one child.
Ooh, congratulations.
So I encourage the young people out there to really settle down, take on the mantle, and be responsible.
Yeah.
Especially for the young men out there. Please take up the responsibilities. Don't fear. Don't get anxious.
Yeah.
In some way, you find a way out.
They fear the outcomes.
Yeah, sure, they do, but that is something they must. So, my personal experience with fear and anxiety was when I was supposed to officially go to the parents' home for my wife.
Yeah.
And during that time, probably I didn't have any running contract.
Hey.
Yeah. So I had this fear of, I really need to get this done.
Where will I
We
get?
need to move. And then I'm anxious about where the money is going to come from.
Exactly.
Because this is not something you're going to say they will do for me.
They will never.
Because no one is going to step up in your shoes, and even when family is there for you,
they have somewhere
they have that point where they say, okay, if you have managed to pay that dowry and you have managed to buy your own clothes, you have managed to dress your bride, you have managed to do this and this, then the family is going to start at that point. But even then, you're not very sure of who will come through, who will not come through, because literally you don't have their money already in your coffers.
True.
So for me, I think that was a very great step, and we usually had this discussion with my wife and she would ask this question of, how much do we have at the moment?
Wow.
And whenever that question would come, I would perfectly freeze, and she's like, I am sure in her mind something would run through and say, are we sure we are going for this? But I want to give the message out there to the young people. Make that decision. Stand bold. Take it up. And then you will see how really wonders can happen.
Yeah.
So I had the anxiety, but luckily we managed to do very, very wonderful functions. Everyone was proud of the functions that we did make, and for me, I think that was one of the best times that I did overcome fear and anxiety.
Wow. So real life experiences can put you in a situation whereby you realize, I have fear for this, or I'm anxious because of this. And the way you go about it is how you handle yourself, is how you identify that if this is one of my fears, how can I overcome it? And you also talked about now having a second party in relation, meaning anxiety can't be one-sided whereby you need to overcome something. You also need to involve certain people to see that, you can do this, and you can do it by yourself. So I'm looking at an angle whereby you've been in fear, and you have a friend who is maybe anxious, and that person is having either triggers or shivering or panic attacks, and this person tells you, because to some extent there are some people who get anxious and they feel like, I need a calm environment. I don't need anyone besides me. I don't need to see anyone in front of me. So that aspect also kicks in. So how best can that person be helped? Are you going to move out? Are you going to move away? Are you going to let them have their space? But remember, sometimes anxiety can result into a terrible action. So how best can you advise such a person?
Well, I think for me, the best advice I can give such a person is that it gets back to what the organization really focuses on in its programming, mentorship and life skills. Dealing with anxiety and fear, or even other mental health challenges and life challenges, is a gradual process. It is a step by step. As you take on this step, you get the energy to take on another step. Even when I am anxious, when I have anxiety, when I have fear, I want to lock myself in one room. I want to lock myself in a room and be alone. But again, it gets back to the life skill of living with others. It gets back to the life skill of knowing yourself. It gets back to the life skill of critical thinking, decision making. How are you able to make the right decisions even when you're faced with challenges? Because in the long run, that will deal with the fear and anxiety, because you've built the capacity in yourself and around yourself. You have the support system that even when you're going through something as a young person, you have your fellow young people around you. You have friends, you have family, you have people that love you. Therefore, even when you want to lock yourself in a room and you want to do terrible things, when you think about the people that love you, your parents, your friends, your family, and how they're going to feel after you've probably done something that is not so okay to yourself.
Yeah.
At that point, that is the comeback point for anxiety and fear. I think for me, the cornerstone of dealing with anxiety and fear is really having the life skills that you really need to deal with the situations around you.
Wow.
Because people can only support you if you want to be supported.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I think you've articulated everything clearly the way we wanted us to hear. And I would tell the young people out there, you're not alone. Fear is a life change that we live with, and anxiety is everywhere because you need to come up, think of how best you can overcome either fear or anxiety, because we all have our weaknesses and we all fear something. We can be anxious about something, but like Mr. Quraish said, you need to identify yourself and you need to also look at the triggers. If you know you're anxious about something, then work upon it. See the life skills, the lifetime skills you can work upon or you can work around, such that you can be very good and be able to rise up high and engulf your strength and see that, yes, I am this particular person and I'm looking at achieving this in future. So at this particular time, we would like to hear remarks from you in regards to today's pod talk and how best you would advise the youth out there and perhaps motivate them, because we realize they have steps in life. Fear comes because of certain step, anxiety comes because they're going to achieve this, and luckily enough, we're looking at, you are dealing with youth that are school going and those that are not, they're in community. So how best can they look at that angle?
Well, my message for the young people as we try to wrap up this discussion is one that life has to move on. Somehow you have to figure out life, and life is such a bumpy road. Today you're going on right, the next day things are turning, the next day things are okay, and the next day things are turning. So I think for the young people, as young people, from the background that I come from as an organization, we work both in schools and in the community. So my message is, what are the nearest service points that you can link up with in case you're having challenges? Yes, because when you have a challenge, I'll go back to the saying, a problem shared is a problem solved, or is a problem half solved. Who is around you that you can be able to share with, probably, and you find solutions, but also encourage those that are being shared with to maintain confidentiality in this aspect. Because if you can't maintain the confidentiality, then the communication cycle is all broken. So I think for me and the young people out there, you just need to find the nearest service points. Find help. Seeking help is a step for the bold. No weak person finds help. Only those that are bold and strong can find help.
Thank you so much. Well said. And we are so delighted. We are so honored that we had a moment with you. And thank you so much for being there for the young people. And we're so much appreciative to the organization, because working around the youth, working around the young people is all we venture into, because we are trying to create a bright future for the young people. Thank you so much. And it has been Faridah, your host. And we appreciate Topwa Youth Mentoring Uganda. We appreciate Ula Media for making this happen. Thank you so much for watching us live. Until next time, bye-bye.